A Cadillac blocked my gate. My wife sat with her lover. Two thugs stepped out. She's with us now. We're here to break your ribs. I smiled. Her choice. Bringing them? Your mistake. They charged. 3 weeks later, I discovered our marriage was a lie from day one. She had a daughter I never knew existed. And the FBI just told me I was never supposed to be a husband. My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm 42 years old. And until 3 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good life. I've been the chief electrician at Patterson Manufacturing for 17 years. It's honest work, good pay, solid benefits. The kind of job that lets you build a life, buy a house, put your kid through school. I married Celeste 15 years back when I was 27 and she was 22. She was beautiful, ambitious, sharp as a tack. We had our son Jordan 9 years ago, and I thought we had everything figured out. I was wrong. The day everything fell apart started like any other Tuesday. I'd finished my shift early because we completed a major rewiring project ahead of schedule. I was looking forward to surprising Jordan, maybe taking him out for ice cream before dinner. I pulled onto our street in North Philadelphia just after 4 in the afternoon, already planning what flavor I'd get. That's when I saw it. A sleek black Cadillac Escalade sat right in front of our gate, blocking the driveway like it owned the place. The windows were tinted dark, but I could make out movement inside. My gut twisted. We lived in a decent neighborhood, but you don't park a $100,000 vehicle like that unless you're making a statement. I parked on the street and got out slowly. Before I could reach the gate, 2 men emerged from the Cadillac. They wore expensive suits, the kind that cost more than my monthly mortgage. Both were built like linebackers, all shoulders and cold eyes. They positioned themselves between me and my own front door. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. The driver's door opened, and she stepped out. Celeste, my wife. She looked at me without a trace of shame or hesitation, like this was the most natural thing in the world. Then he appeared from the passenger side. Tall, silver-haired, probably early 40s, wearing a suit that screamed money and power. Sebastian Moretti. I'd heard the name before, some big-shot real estate developer with connections all over the city. "Ryan," Celeste said, her voice cool and composed. "We need to talk." Sebastian walked around the car and stood next to her, placing his hand possessively on the small of her back. The gesture was deliberate, designed to wound. "Your wife is with me now," Sebastian said, his Italian accent slight but unmistakable. His smile was the kind you see on a shark. "We packed her things. I'm here to make sure the transition goes smoothly." I looked at Celeste, searching for something, anything that resembled the woman I'd married. "Celeste, what the hell is this?" "It's exactly what it looks like," she replied, crossing her arms. "I'm leaving, Ryan. I deserve more than this. More than you." One of the thugs, a thick-necked guy with a scar above his eyebrow, stepped forward. "Mr. Moretti wants to make something clear," he said, his voice rough. "She's with us now. We're here to break a few of your ribs if you try anything stupid. Just a little preventive measure." The second thug grinned, flexing his fingers like he was warming up. I felt a rage building, hot and sharp in my chest. But I learned a long time ago, back in my army days before I became an electrician, that rage is only useful if you control it. I let a slow, cold smile spread across my face. "Let me get this straight," I said quietly, looking directly at Sebastian. "If my wife chose to betray everything we built, that's her choice. But you brought these 2 idiots to threaten me in my own house." Sebastian's smile faltered just a fraction. "Insurance, Mitchell. Nothing personal." "Everything's personal," I said. Then I looked at the 2 thugs. "You boys really want to do this?" They didn't wait to answer. The scarred one rushed me first, throwing a wide right hook. I ducked under it easily. 17 years of electrical work had kept my reflexes sharp. I drove my elbow up into his solar plexus, and he folded like a cheap tent, gasping for air. The second thug came at me from the side. I pivoted, caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted hard, and used his own momentum to send him stumbling into the Cadillac's hood with a heavy thud. He slid to the ground, dazed. The whole thing took maybe 10 seconds. Sebastian backed toward the car, his face pale. "Look, there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." I cut him off, walking forward. "You came to my house. You threatened me. Bad decision." Celeste finally showed some emotion, panic flashing across her face. "Ryan, stop." "Ryan, please," Celeste said, her voice shaking. Just let us leave. I looked at her, really looked at her, standing there next to a man who just sent thugs to threaten me. Where's Jordan? Her eyes flicked away. He's with my sister. He's fine. You took my son without telling me. The words came out low and dangerous. Our son needed stability, she shot back, finding her spine again. Not this chaos. Sebastian had recovered some of his composure, though he stayed near the car. Mitchell, let's be civilized about this. Celeste has made her choice. Fighting it won't change anything. Get off my property. I said each word like a nail being hammered. They loaded into the Cadillac, quickly, the two thugs limping as they climbed in. As they pulled away, Celeste didn't look back once. I stood there in my driveway, 17 years of marriage evaporating like steam. I went inside. The house felt wrong immediately. Half the closet was empty. Her laptop was gone from the desk. Pictures of us had been removed from the walls, leaving rectangular shadows on the paint. She'd been planning this, taking things gradually so I wouldn't notice. I called my sister Marie. I need you to do me a favor, I said when she answered. Can you come stay with me for a few days? Ryan? What's wrong? Everything. I'll explain when you get here. The next morning, I showed up to work like normal. What else was I supposed to do? Sit at home and fall apart? Patterson Manufacturing had been my second home for 17 years. I knew every wire, every circuit, every corner of that facility. My supervisor, Tom Hendricks, called me into his office before lunch. He looked uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eyes. Ryan, we need to talk, he said, closing the door. What's going on, Tom? He shifted in his chair. Corporate got a call yesterday. From Sebastian Moretti's office. My stomach dropped. And Moretti's a major investor in Patterson. Sits on the board. He's requested that we make some changes. You're firing me. It wasn't a question. Tom looked miserable. I fought it, Ryan. You know I did. But it came from the top. I'm sorry. I stood up slowly. 17 years, Tom. 17 years I've given this place. I know. It's not right. It's not fair. But my hands are tied. I cleaned out my locker in silence. The guys on the floor knew something was wrong. A few tried to ask questions, but I just shook my head. What could I say? That my wife's new boyfriend was powerful enough to take my livelihood with a phone call? When I got home, I found an envelope in the mailbox. Legal documents. Divorce petition. Celeste had filed 3 days ago, before the confrontation at the gate. She planned every step, but it got worse. A temporary restraining order, claiming I'd been verbally abusive and threatening. Complete lies, but there was in black and white. And buried in the paperwork, the real gut punch. She had emergency temporary custody of Jordan. I wasn't allowed to contact my son without her permission. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the papers. In 24 hours, I lost my wife, my job, and my son. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Mr. Mitchell. A woman's voice, professional. This is Detective Sarah Klein, with Philadelphia PD. I need to ask you some questions about an incident yesterday involving Sebastian Moretti. What kind of questions? Mr. Moretti has filed a complaint. Assault charges. 2 of his security staff are in the hospital. I laughed, hollow and bitter. They came to my house to threaten me. That's not what the report says. Can you come down to the station? Do I need a lawyer? She paused. That's your right, Mr. Mitchell. I hung up and called the only person I could think of. Grant Stevens. We've been friends since high school, and he'd gone on to become a defense attorney. Grant, I said when he picked up. I need help. Grant met me at the police station. He looked sharp in his suit, every inch the successful attorney. We'd grown up in the same rough neighborhood in South Philly, but he'd made it out through law school, while I'd chosen the Army and then electrical work. Don't say anything, Grant instructed as we walked in. Let me handle this. Detective Klein was in her 40s, professional but cold. She led us to an interview room and laid out photos of the 2 thugs from yesterday. One had a broken rib, the other a concussion. Your client assaulted these men, she said, tapping the photos. Grant didn't blink. These men trespassed on my client's property and threatened him with bodily harm. He defended himself. Where are the charges against them? Mr. Moretti has decided not to press charges for the trespassing. How generous, Grant said dryly. Detective, we both know what this is. A man with money and connections trying to intimidate someone who got in his way. Klein's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Mr. Mitchell, I suggest you stay away from Mr. Moretti and Ms. Mitchell. She's still my wife, I said. Not for long, Klein replied. And if you violate that restraining order, you'll be arrested. Outside, Grant pulled me aside. Ryan, I need you to be straight with me. Is there anything about this marriage, anything at all, that could come back to hurt you? Like what? Affairs, financial problems, anything Celeste could use against you. I thought about it. Nothing. I worked, came home, spent time with Jordan. That was my life. Okay, we'll start building your case. But Ryan, you need to prepare yourself. Sebastian Moretti isn't just rich. He's connected. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He was right. That evening, I hired a private investigator named Dennis Cole. He was ex-cop, late 50s, with a reputation for finding things people want hidden. I want to know everything about my wife, I told him. Where she goes, who she sees, how long this has been going on. Dennis called me 3 days later. You're going to want to sit down for this. We met at a diner. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, bank statements, hotel receipts. My hands shook as I went through them. Your wife's been cheating for at least 8 years, Dennis said. Sebastian's just the latest. Before him, there was a lawyer named David Preston. Before that, a doctor, a contractor, a fitness instructor. I found evidence of at least 7 different men. I felt sick. 8 years. Jordan had been 1 year old. There's more, Dennis continued. See this? He pointed to a bank statement. She's been transferring money from your joint account to a private account in her name. Small amounts, a few hundred here and there. Over 8 years, it adds up to about $40,000. She was stealing from me. Looks like it. And check this out. He showed me a property record. This condo in Center City, bought 3 years ago, listed under an LLC, but I traced it back to Celeste. She's been using it as her private apartment. The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. Our entire marriage had been a lie. One more thing, Dennis said quietly. Your wife had another child. A daughter. She gave her up for adoption 14 years ago, right before you got married. The room spun. What? The girl's name is Emma Lawson. She's 14, lives with foster parents in Wilmington, Delaware. I contacted the agency. The girl's been asking about her birth mother. I couldn't breathe. Celeste had a daughter she'd never told me about. A daughter who existed before our marriage, hidden away like a shameful secret. Does Celeste know the girl's looking for her? I asked. Don't know, but you might want to reach out. Emma could be an important witness about your wife's character. I left the diner with a folder burning a hole under my arm. That night, I sat in Jordan's empty room and stared at the photos of men I'd never met. Men who'd been with my wife while I'd been at work, providing for our family. Grant called me at 6 in the morning. Ryan, we've got a problem. Judge Thompson is assigned to your custody case. I was still half asleep. So, Thompson plays golf with Sebastian Moretti every Sunday. They're friends. I sat up. Can we get a different judge? I'm filing for recusal, but it takes time. And Ryan, there's something else. I got a call last night. Anonymous. Telling me to drop your case. A threat. Implied. Nothing direct enough to report, but the message was clear. This was exactly what Punk 5 warned about. Sebastian had connections everywhere. Judges, cops, people in power. What do? I asked. We go federal. If the local system's compromised, we need to bring in outside authorities. I've got a contact at the FBI who handles public corruption cases. 2 days later, Grant and I met with Special Agent Patricia Rhodes in a federal building downtown. She was sharp-eyed, skeptical, but she listened. What you're describing is serious, Rhodes said after we laid everything out. But we need evidence of actual corruption, not just social connections. What about him getting me fired? I asked. One phone call, and I lost my job. That's not illegal, Mr. Mitchell. Unethical, maybe, but not criminal. Grant leaned forward. What if we could prove that Judge Thompson is taking bribes? Or that Moretti's using his influence to manipulate court cases? Then we'd have something, Rhodes admitted. But that kind of investigation takes months, and you need your son now. She was right. While we built a case, Jordan was stuck with Celeste and Sebastian. That afternoon, I got another shock. An email from a woman named Patricia Lawson, Emma's foster mother. Mr. Mitchell, Emma has been asking about her biological mother. We recently learned that Celeste Mitchell is her birth mother. Emma would like to meet you. if you're willing. I called Grant immediately. Is this legal? Can I meet her without Celeste's permission? Emma's 14. She has a right to know her biological family. And you're not violating any custody order because she's not your legal child. But Ryan, be careful. This could blow up in complicated ways. I drove to Wilmington the next day. The Lawsons lived in a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Patricia greeted me at the door, cautious but kind. Emma sat in the living room. She had Celeste's eyes, her bone structure, but there was a wariness in her expression that reminded me of myself. Hi, I said, sitting across from her. I'm Ryan. You're married to my birth mother, Emma said. It wasn't a question. I am. Or I was. We're getting divorced. Because she cheated on you? I blinked, surprised. How did you know that? I've been researching her. Found some stuff online. She's with some rich guy now, right? Yeah. Sebastian Moretti. Emma looked down at her hands. I want to meet her. Find out why she gave me up. But now I don't know. Emma, I said gently. Why did you want to meet me? She met my eyes. Because I wanted to know if everyone in my biological family was like her. Selfish. A liar. I'm not, I said. And Emma, I need to tell you something. Your mother, she used you. Over the next hour, I explained everything Dennis had uncovered. How Celeste had used Emma as an alibi years ago, claiming she was visiting her sick cousin in Delaware when she was really meeting one of her lovers. Emma had been a convenient excuse. Emma's hands trembled as she processed what I told her. She used me as an excuse to cheat on you. Not just me, I said quietly. Before we got married, she was with other men. She'd tell people she was visiting you when she wasn't. You were her alibi before you even knew she existed. Patricia Lawson, Emma's foster mother, put a protective hand on the girl's shoulder. Mr. Mitchell, this is a lot for Emma to handle. I know. I'm sorry. But Emma deserves the truth about who her mother really is. Emma looked up, tears streaming down her face. All this time, I thought maybe she gave me up because she wasn't ready, because she was young and scared. But she's just selfish, isn't she? Yeah, I said. She is. Emma wiped her eyes. You have a son, Jordan, right? I do. He's 9. Does he know about me? No. Celeste never told either of us you existed. Emma stood up, paced to the window. When she turned back, there was steel in her eyes that reminded me of myself. I want to testify. In court. I want to tell the judge what kind of person she is. Patricia looked alarmed. Emma, that's a big decision. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Emma interrupted. She used me. She threw me away and then used me to cover her lies. If I can help you keep your son away from her, I will. Grant wasn't sure when I told him. Ryan, putting a 14-year-old girl on the stand is risky. The judge might see it as you manipulating a child. She volunteered, I said. And Grant, she's a victim too. Celeste used her own daughter as an alibi. That speaks to character. You're right. But we need to be careful how we present this. 2 weeks later, I got a call that changed everything. It was Jordan. He'd somehow gotten hold of the phone. Dad. His voice was small, scared. Jordan, buddy, are you okay? I miss you, Dad. Mom's boyfriend is weird. He keeps trying to act like he's my dad, buying me stuff, but it feels wrong. My heart broke. I'm working on getting you back, Jordan. I promise. Dad, there's something else. I heard Mom talking on the phone. She said something about you not being allowed to leave the state, about getting your passport revoked. What does that mean? Ice flooded my veins. When did you hear this? Yesterday. She was talking to someone. I don't know who. I called Grant immediately. They're trying to make sure I can't leave the country. That's part of Punk 14, Grant said grimly. Ryan, I need to tell you something. I did some digging. You're a naturalized citizen, right? From Poland. Yeah. I came here when I was 12. Got my citizenship at 18. Sebastian's people are looking into your immigration records. They're searching for any irregularities, any mistakes in your paperwork. If they find something, they could try to challenge your citizenship status. That was 24 years ago. Everything was legitimate. Doesn't matter. If they can create doubt, they can tie you up in immigration court for years. And if you're fighting deportation, you can't fight for custody of Jordan. This was worse than I'd imagined. They weren't just trying to take my son. They were trying to erase me completely. That night, Dennis called with more information. Ryan, I found something. You know how Celeste met Sebastian? It wasn't random. What do you mean? 3 years ago, You worked on a security system installation at Patterson Manufacturing. You designed the electrical layout for their new research and development facility. That facility is working on a military contract, classified stuff. My stomach sank. How do you know this? Because Sebastian Moretti has been trying to get access to that facility for 2 years. He wants the contracts, the patents, the technology, and he couldn't get in through normal channels. So he went through Celeste. I said, the pieces falling into place. Exactly. She approached him at a charity event 3 years ago. I found the photos. But Ryan, I think it goes back further. I think Celeste was planted in your life 15 years ago to get close to you. The room spun. That's insane. Is it? Think about it. You met her right after you got the job at Patterson. She pursued you hard, married you fast, and she's been in the perfect position to access your work files, your computer, your information for 15 years. You're saying my entire marriage was a setup? From day one. I'm saying it's possible. And if it's true, Sebastian Moretti isn't just some rich guy who stole your wife. He's been running an espionage operation, using her as the asset. I sat down heavily. If Dennis was right, Celeste had never loved me. I'd never been anything but a target, a means to an end. Jordan was just collateral damage in their scheme. Can we prove this? I asked. Working on it. But Ryan, if we're right, this goes beyond divorce court. This is federal crime territory. 2 days before the custody hearing, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mr. Mitchell, this is Sebastian Moretti. His voice was smooth, confident. I'd like to meet with you. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no drama. I think we can resolve this situation like civilized men. Every instinct screamed not to go, but I needed to know what he wanted. We met at an upscale restaurant in Center City, the kind of place where a salad costs $30. Sebastian was already there, sitting in a private booth in the back. He stood as I approached, extending his hand. I didn't take it. Suit yourself, Sebastian said, sitting down. Can I order you something? The lobster here is exceptional. I'm not here to eat. Say what you want to say. Sebastian smiled, unbothered by my hostility. Direct. I appreciate that. Very well, Mr. Mitchell. I'm here to make you an offer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He slid it across the table. I opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for $5 million. What is this? I asked, though I already knew. Your future, Sebastian said. Sign over full custody of Jordan to Celeste. Agree to supervise visitation only, once a month. Disappear from their lives quietly. And that money is yours. I stared at the check. $5 million. Enough to start over anywhere in the world. Enough to never worry about money again. You're trying to buy my son, I said flatly. I'm offering you a way out of a fight you can't win, Sebastian corrected. Ryan. May I call you Ryan? Let's be honest. You've lost your job. Your reputation is damaged. You're facing assault charges, restraining orders, immigration issues. Even if you fight this, you'll spend years in court, hundreds of thousands in legal fees, and you'll probably still lose. You made sure of that. Sebastian shrugged. I protect my interests. Celeste is my interest now. Jordan will be raised in a world of opportunity, private schools, connections, the best of everything. What can you give him? Instability? A father fighting legal battles? A childhood spent in courtrooms? He leaned forward. Take the money, Ryan. Start over. Find someone new. Have another family. Stop clinging to something that's already gone. I looked at the check again. $5 million. Financial security for life. All I had to do was walk away from my son. I picked up the envelope, and Sebastian's smile widened. Then I tore the check in half. And in half again. And again. I dropped the pieces on the table between us. Here's my counteroffer, I said, standing up. Go to hell. Sebastian's smile vanished. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not seeing what Celeste really was 15 years ago. But I'm done making mistakes. Ryan, sit down. Be reasonable. I'm done being reasonable, I said. You want to fight? You got one. And when this is over, when the truth comes out about what you and Celeste have been doing, that empire you've built is going to come down around your ears. I walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Grant was waiting in his car outside. How'd it go? He offered me $5 million to walk away from Jordan. Grant's eyes widened. Jesus. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. Grant started laughing, a real belly laugh. That's my friend. Okay, now they know you won't be bought, which means they're going to come at you harder. Let them, I said. I'm ready. That night, Emma called me. Mr. Mitchell? Ryan? I've been practicing my testimony. My foster mom helped me. I want to make sure I say everything right. Emma, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do, she said firmly. That woman threw me away and then used me like I was nothing. She doesn't deserve to raise any child, especially not Jordan. I'm going to make sure that judge knows exactly who she is. The custody hearing was in 2 days. But something was building, something bigger than just my fight for Jordan. The federal investigation into Sebastian was moving forward. Dennis had found evidence of the setup, of Celeste being planted in my life. And now Grant had filed a motion to bring all of it into the custody case. The walls were closing in on them, and they knew it. The custody hearing felt like stepping into a gladiator arena. Judge Thompson presided, a gray-haired man in his 60s with the bearing of someone who'd never been challenged in his life. I'd seen the photos of him and Sebastian on the golf course. They smiled like old friends. Celeste sat at the plaintiff's table with her attorneys, 3 of them in expensive suits. She looked elegant and composed, playing the role of concerned mother. Sebastian sat behind her in the gallery, a silent show of support and power. Grant and I were alone at our table. We couldn't afford a team of lawyers. We had truth and desperation. The hearing began badly. Celeste's lead attorney, a shark named Douglas Kent, painted me as unstable and violent. He showed photos of the 2 security guards I'd put in the hospital. Mr. Mitchell has demonstrated a pattern of aggressive behavior, Kent argued. He assaulted 2 men simply for being present at his residence. What kind of example does that set for a 9-year-old child? Those men threatened to break my ribs, I said, unable to stay silent. Judge Thompson's gavel came down. Mr. Mitchell, you'll have your chance to speak. Right now, you'll be quiet. Grant stood. Your Honor, those men were trespassing and made verbal threats against my client. He acted in self-defense on his own property. That's for another court to decide, Thompson said dismissively. Continue, Mr. Kent. Kent called Celeste to the stand. She was perfect, tearful but composed, worried but strong. She talked about my increasingly erratic behavior, my obsession with work, my emotional distance from Jordan. All eyes. But she sold them beautifully. Then Kent dropped his bombshell. Mrs. Mitchell, is there anything else the court should know about your husband's fitness as a parent? Celeste dabbed her eyes. Yes. Ryan has been making threats. He contacted a young girl, a 14-year-old named Emma Lawson, and has been coaching her to testify against me. He's using a child as a weapon. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Thompson looked at me with open disgust. Grant shot to his feet. Your Honor, that's a complete misrepresentation. Is this true, Mr. Stevens? Does your client have a 14-year-old girl ready to testify? Yes, but a child he has no legal relationship with. Thompson pressed. Emma Lawson is Mrs. Mitchell's biological daughter, Grant said firmly. A daughter she gave up for adoption and never told my client about. Emma volunteered to testify about her mother's character. The room went silent. Celeste's face went white. Kent looked like he'd been slapped. Your Honor, Grant continued, we can prove that Mrs. Mitchell used Emma as an alibi for her extramarital affairs. She's been lying to this court, to my client, and most tragically, to her own children. Thompson's expression shifted slightly. I'll hear from the girl. But Mr. Stevens, tread very carefully. Emma took the stand. She looked small and nervous, but when she started speaking, her voice was steady. My birth mother gave me up 14 years ago, Emma said. I've been in foster care since I was a baby. But she didn't just abandon me. She used me. Whenever she wanted to cover up where she was really going, she'd tell people she was visiting her daughter in Delaware. She made me part of her lives before I even knew she existed. Ken tried to interrupt, but Thompson waved him off, listening. And it's not just me, Emma continued. I talked to her current son, Jordan, my half-brother. She used him too. Made him lie about where she was. Made him keep secrets. She uses everyone around her. Then the moment that changed everything. The back door of the courtroom opened, and Jordan walked in with Marie, my sister. He wasn't supposed to be there. Celeste had forbidden it. But he'd run away from Celeste's sister's house and called Marie. Your Honor, Marie said. Jordan Mitchell asked to be here. He has something to say. Thompson looked torn. This is highly irregular. I want to live with my dad, Jordan shouted, his voice echoing through the courtroom. Mom's boyfriend is creepy, and Mom's always gone, and I miss my dad. Why can't I just live with my dad? Celeste stood up. Jordan, honey, please. No, Jordan yelled. You lied to me. You said Dad hit those guys for no reason, but I heard you on the phone. You told them to scare him. You're the liar, not Dad. The courtroom exploded. Thompson's gavel came down repeatedly. Order. I will have order. But the damage was done. A 9-year-old boy had just called his mother a liar in open court, in front of everyone. Grant leaned over to me. We didn't plan this, did we? No, I said, watching my son being let out by a bailiff. But Jordan's braver than both of us. Thompson called a recess. As we filed out, I saw Sebastian's face. He looked furious. Celeste was crying, but whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. In the hallway, Grant grabbed my arm. Ryan, this could go either way. Thompson might see Jordan as a manipulated child, or he might see the truth. We won't know until he rules. But something had shifted. The perfect image Celeste had presented was shattered. Her own son had exposed her lies. And in the gallery, I'd noticed 2 men in dark suits taking notes. Federal agents. The investigation was moving forward. That night, Grant got a call that made my blood run cold. Ryan, it's about my family. You need to come to my house. Now. I drove to Grant's place in the suburbs. Police cars were parked outside, lights flashing. Grant stood on his front lawn, his arm around his wife, Michelle. Their 2 kids, teenagers, huddled nearby looking terrified. What happened? I asked. Someone tried to grab Michelle, Grant said, his voice shaking with rage. She was getting groceries out of the car. A van pulled up, 2 men got out. They tried to force her inside. Michelle was trembling. I screamed. The neighbor came out with his dog, and they ran. But Grant, they knew my name. They said, tell your husband to back off, or next time we won't leave. This was Punk 24. They were going after Grant's family, to get him to drop my case. I'm calling the FBI. I said. Already did, Grant replied. Agent Rhodes is on her way. Rhodes arrived within the hour. She listened to Michelle's statement, examined the scene, and then pulled Grant and me aside. This is escalating faster than I expected, Rhodes said. Mr. Stevens, your family is in danger. I can offer you protective custody, witness protection if necessary. Grant looked at his wife and kids. I saw the war in his eyes. His family versus his principles. Versus me. Grant, I said quietly. If you need to step away from this case, I understand. Your family comes first. He looked at me, torn. Michelle walked over and took his hand. Grant, we're scared, she said. But we're also not going to let these people win. If you walk away now, they'll know they can threaten anyone who stands up to them. Our kids need to see that we don't cave to bullies. Grant's eyes filled with tears. He pulled his wife close. You're sure? I'm terrified, Michelle admitted. But I'm sure. Grant turned to Rhodes. We'll take the protection, but I'm staying on this case. Brave choice, Rhodes said. And it might be the break we need. Mr. Mitchell, the attempted kidnapping gives us probable cause to investigate Sebastian Moretti directly. We can start pulling his communications, his financial records, everything. What about the immigration thing? I asked. They're trying to get me deported. Rhodes looked grim. That's moving forward separately. But here's where it gets interesting. We've been investigating Moretti's business dealings for 6 months. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. If your wife was working with him to access classified information from Patterson Manufacturing, that's industrial espionage, federal crime. And if they're using immigration threats to silence you, that's witness intimidation. Can you stop the deportation proceedings? Grant asked. I can try. But immigration courts don't answer to the FBI. However, if Mitchell is a witness in a federal investigation, that carries some weight. Over the next 3 days, things moved fast. Rhodes got a warrant for Sebastian's communications. What they found was damning. Emails between Sebastian and Celeste going back 12 years, before we were even married. Discussions about the target and the asset. About my job at Patterson. About getting access to classified research. Celeste hadn't just met me by chance. She'd been assigned to me. Our entire marriage was an intelligence operation. But Sebastian made a critical mistake. In his arrogance, he'd kept records of everything, including payments to Judge Thompson. $20,000, transferred quarterly for 2 years. Golf trips to Scotland. A luxury car for Thompson's wife. All documented. Rhodes called us in. We've got him. Thompson's dirty, and we can prove it. He'll be arrested tomorrow. Your custody case will be reassigned to a federal judge. What about Celeste? I asked. She's looking at serious time. Conspiracy, espionage, fraud. If she cooperates, maybe 10 years. If she doesn't, 25 to life. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against Rhodes's advice, I answered on speaker. Mitchell. Sebastian's voice was tight, controlled fury. You've made a terrible mistake. No, Sebastian. You made the mistake when you thought you could buy everything and everyone. Your immigration case is being expedited. You'll be on a plane to Poland within the week. Actually, Rhodes interjected. Mr. Mitchell is under federal protection as a witness. Any attempt to deport him will be blocked. And Mr. Moretti, this call is being recorded. I'm Special Agent Patricia Rhodes with the FBI. You're under investigation for corruption, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. I suggest you contact your attorney. The line went dead. Grant was smiling. Did we just win? We're getting close, Rhodes said. But corner animals are dangerous. Everyone stays alert. That night, Jordan called me from Marie's house. Dad, when can I come home? Soon, buddy, I promised. Very soon. The day before the rescheduled custody hearing, Celeste requested a meeting. Just the two of us, no lawyers. Grant advised against it, but I agreed. I needed to hear what she had to say. We met at a coffee shop in Center City, neutral ground. She looked different, smaller somehow, without the armor of designer clothes and Sebastian's money behind her. She'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. Ryan, she said as I sat down. Thank you for coming. What do you want, Celeste? She stared at her untouched coffee. I wanted to tell you something before it all comes out in court. Something you deserve to hear from me. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. 12 years ago, I was recruited by a firm that does corporate intelligence. They identified you as someone with access to valuable information at Patterson Manufacturing. I was hired to get close to you, marry you if possible, and gather intelligence on the military contracts. Even though I'd suspected it, hearing it confirmed felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Our entire marriage was fake. At first, yes, she said quietly. But Ryan, I need you to understand something. It didn't stay fake. When Jordan was born, when I held him for the first time, something changed. I love that boy. I still do. Just not enough to stop lying. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I got in too deep. Sebastian found out about my past work about Emma. He blackmailed me. Said he'd expose everything unless I helped him. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You don't understand what he's capable of. I understand exactly what he's capable of. I cut her off. He tried to destroy my life, threatened my friend's family, tried to get me deported. And you helped him every step of the way. I was protecting Jordan. By lying to him, using him as an alibi, you weren't protecting anyone but yourself. She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. Part of me, a small part, felt sympathy. But most of me felt nothing but cold anger. Ryan, there's something else, she said through her tears. 10 years ago, when you were on that business trip to Houston, you cheated on me. My blood froze. How did you? I hired a detective. I've known for a decade. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. You slept with a woman at a conference. One night, you came home and never said a word. I'd buried that mistake so deep I'd almost convinced myself it never happened. A moment of weakness after too many drinks. A woman whose name I barely remembered. I'd hated myself for months afterward. So we're both liars, I said quietly. No, Celeste said. You made one mistake in a moment of weakness. I built our entire relationship on lies. There's no comparison. Why are you telling me this now? Because Sebastian is going to use it. He found out somehow. He's going to bring it up in court tomorrow, paint you as a hypocrite. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I sat back, processing. Does Jordan know? No. And Ryan, whatever happens tomorrow, whatever comes out, please don't let him hate both of us. He needs at least one parent he can believe in. He has one. Me. She nodded, accepting that. The FBI offered me a deal. If I testify against Sebastian, they'll reduce my sentence. I'm taking it. Good. I'll lose years with Jordan. He'll grow up while I'm in prison. But at least I could do one thing right. I can stop Sebastian from hurting anyone else. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Celeste reached across the table, but I pulled my hand away. I loved you, she said. At some point, it became real for me. I need you to know that. It doesn't matter anymore, I said, standing up. See you in court, Celeste. As I walked out, I called Grant. Sebastian knows about Houston. He's going to use it tomorrow. How bad is it? Bad enough. One night, 10 years ago. I never told you because I was ashamed. Grant was quiet for a moment. Okay, we'll deal with it. Ryan, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is what you did after. You didn't make a pattern. You didn't build your life on lies. Will the judge see it that way? I don't know, but we're about to find out. The courtroom was packed. Judge Elizabeth Farmer, the federal judge assigned to replace Thompson, was in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Thompson himself was in federal custody, awaiting trial for corruption. Sebastian sat in the back, his empire crumbling but still fighting. Celeste sat at the plaintiff's table alone. Her lawyers had abandoned her when she'd agreed to testify against Sebastian. The hearing began with Sebastian's lawyer, a desperate man named Richard Vale, calling me to the stand. Mr. Mitchell, Vale said, isn't it true that 10 years ago, you were unfaithful to your wife? The courtroom went silent. I saw Jordan in the gallery with Marie, his eyes wide. Yes, I said clearly. I made a terrible mistake one night in Houston. I've regretted it every day since. And you never told your wife? No. I was ashamed and I was wrong. Vale smiled. So while you're here claiming moral superiority, painting yourself as the victim of infidelity, you're actually a hypocrite who betrayed his own marriage vows. Grant stood. Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell made one mistake a decade ago. A mistake he's acknowledging openly. Mrs. Mitchell conducted affairs with 7 different men over 8 years, used her children as alibis, and conspired to commit espionage. The comparison is offensive. Judge Farmer looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, did your single indiscretion become a pattern? No, Your Honor. It happened once, and it's haunted me ever since. Did you use your son to cover it up? Never. Did you steal money, commit fraud, or conspire to commit federal crimes? No, ma'am. Farmer nodded. Mr. Vale, if you're suggesting that one mistake 10 years ago makes Mr. Mitchell unfit as a parent, while ignoring Mrs. Mitchell's extensive pattern of deception and criminal activity, you're wasting this court's time. Vale sat down, defeated. Then Celeste took the stand, not to defend herself, but to tell the truth. She confirmed everything. The intelligence operation, Sebastian's blackmail, the years of lies. She looked at Jordan and apologized, tears streaming down her face. I was supposed to use you, she said to me. But Jordan changed everything. He made me want to be better. I failed him. I failed both of you. Judge Farmer called a recess. When we returned, she delivered her ruling. This court grants full physical and legal custody of Jordan Mitchell to Ryan Mitchell, Farmer said. Mrs. Mitchell will be allowed supervised visitation upon her release from federal custody, pending psychological evaluation and completion of parenting courses. Jordan ran to me, and I held him tight, both of us crying. 2 months later, Sebastian Moretti was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Celeste received 12 years with a possibility of parole after 8. Emma had become a regular part of our lives, spending weekends with Jordan and me. She'd found siblings she never knew existed, and Jordan had found sister. I'd rebuilt my career, accepting a position as head of electrical engineering at a different firm, one untainted by corruption. Grant's family was safe, living in a new house with better security. The immigration case against me was dismissed. My citizenship was secure. One evening, Jordan and Emma were playing video games in the living room while I cooked dinner. Jordan looked up at me and said, "Dad, are we going to be okay?" I smiled. "Yeah, buddy, we're going to be better than okay." Emma added, "We're a family now, right?" "Right," I confirmed. "A real one this time, built on truth." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I stood on the back porch looking at the stars. Grant called to check in. "You did it, Ryan," he said. "You won." "We won," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you. That's what brothers do." I thought about everything we'd been through. The betrayal, the fights, the fear. But also the courage, the truth, and the bonds that had been forged in fire. Jordan was safe. Emma had found her place. Justice had been served. That was worth every battle we'd fought.